Welcome to today's deep dive. Usually when we talk about building something from scratch, right, there's this romantic expectation of getting your hands dirty.
Oh, absolutely. The tactile experience.
Yeah, exactly. Think about, traditional woodworking. You're not just snapping your fingers to get a table.
Right. You have to actually source the raw timber.
You measure it twice, cut it by hand, and sand it down for hours.
You literally feel every single grain of the wood under your fingertips.
You intimately know the material you're working with. It's a connection.
And it's a physical, highly methodical process, which is, slow by design. The friction is kind of the whole point.
Yeah, we like the friction.
You see the effort in the literal shavings on the floor. And that visible struggle is what we historically associate with mastery.
We find comfort in that. We like the idea that mastery is tied directly to the time you spent standing in the sawdust, right?
Right, the sweat equity.
But then you step into the modern reality of artificial intelligence, and that whole woodworking shop it's turned completely upside down.
It really is.
It's like someone just hands you a fully finished, perfectly polished mahogany dining room table the exact second you ask for one.
Just boom, it's there.
Boom. And it's making us question what it even means to actually, build something anymore, which is exactly the tension at the heart of the source material we're diving into today for you.
Yeah, it's a fascinating set of reflective notes.
Published just yesterday, actually, May 24th, 2026.
By an author named Ang.
Brilliantly titled, The Craftsman and the Plumber.
The title says so much. And the central conflict in Ang's notes is something you, listening right now, are likely wrestling with yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
It is this intense, almost uncomfortable tension between optimizing for a flawless end result versus valuing the messy, frustrating process of learning how to build the thing yourself.
And Ang explores this by looking at how AI is fundamentally altering the value of human effort.
Right.
Right. Specifically in how we approach coding and writing.
Exactly. So we should probably jump straight into the coding landscape.
Let's do it. Because Ang draws an incredibly sharp line in the sand here between two distinct groups. You have the hobbyists on one side and the commercial developers on the other.
Right.
For the hobbyists, Ang makes the case that AI is it's an absolute game changer because it completely removed the hurdles of bootstrapping a project.
Which is huge because bootstrapping has historically been the graveyard of personal projects.
Oh, totally.
I mean, before you can even write a single line of interesting business logic, you're just stuck in dependency hell.
You're configuring environments.
Setting up Docker containers.
Fighting with Webpack.
Yes. All that soul-crushing boilerplate that just drains your momentum right out of the gate.
It's the worst.
But Ang points out that an LLM acts as a machete for that specific jungle. With the right prompts, the AI just, clears the brush.
You can build almost anything from scratch now.
Even something as complex as a full operating system.
Wait, an entire operating system?
Yeah, because the AI handles all that foundational setup that used to take 3 weekends to figure out.
Okay, let's unpack this. If AI makes bootstrapping that effortless for the hobbyist, you'd think it would do the exact same thing for the commercial developer, right?
You would think so.
But Ang shifts focus to the commercial world, where you're essentially getting paid for your hobby, and the assessment there is, well, it's pretty brutal.
It is. Ang argues the commercial software landscape has basically been stagnant for decades.
Which sounds kind of nuts.
It sounds like a total paradox, especially considering the crazy hype cycles we live through. But Ang's critique is structural. The industry is entirely too preoccupied with basically running in circles.
Running in circles, how?
Well, instead of rallying around well-maintained standard libraries, the, batteries included tech stacks, we just keep churning out and rediscovering new languages and new front-end frameworks.
I have to push back on this a little bit. Wait, if commercial coding is just glorified spreadsheets, why are massive tech companies paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to engineers just to rebuild them?
That's the million-dollar question.
Is it really just running in circles, or is scale actually a harder problem than Ang is admitting here? I mean, is commercial coding basically like the fashion industry?
The fashion industry.
Yeah, are we just redesigning the exact same pair of jeans every 5 years and calling it a revolution, or are we actually solving new scaling problems?
That's a great analogy. Scale certainly introduces complexity, right?
Yeah.
But Ang is pointing at the baseline functionality of what is actually being built.
The core of the software.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Underneath the complex microservices and the shiny new JavaScript frameworks, most commercial software built today boils down to basic C or root operations.
Create, read, update, delete.
Right. We are simply moving data from a database to a user interface and back again.
Which is not new.
No, it is a long-solved problem. Yet the industry operates as if we need to invent a completely new way to shuttle that data every 3 years.
A cycle of solutions desperately searching for problems.
Exactly. Which brings us to where AI intercepts this cycle. And this is where Ang introduces the title of the piece. The craftsman versus the plumber.
Right, the two personas.
Yeah. If you are the software craftsman, Ang suggests you can maintain your manual, incremental approach. You keep your hands on the keyboard.
You're still carving the wood.
You use the AI as a highly advanced rubber duck, basically.
It's the sounding board.
Yeah, to talk through your architectural problems, but you are still the one manually laying the bricks.
But then you have the software plumbers, which is how Ang views most commercial builders today.
Right.
For the plumbers, AI allows them to completely bypass that pipe laying phase. They aren't writing the boilerplate anymore. The AI is laying the pipes for them.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, for the commercial plumber, AI first is a total paradigm shift. Well, if the code is generating itself, if the syntax is no longer the bottleneck, the developer's job shifts entirely away from implementation.
The actual typing.
Yes. The human role moves strictly to specification and testing.
Ah, I see. So you are no longer the person pouring the concrete. You are the building inspector, making sure the foundation was poured in the right zip code.
That is exactly it. Your value as a developer is now entirely tied to your ability to define the parameters.
You have to know what you want.
You have to specify exactly what the AI needs to build, with zero ambiguity, and then rigorously test the output to ensure it actually solves the real-world business need. The typing of the code becomes secondary.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. If AI allows these plumbers to lay pipes infinitely faster, you would naturally assume the software industry is currently operating in some kind of utopian wonderland of perfectly deployed products,
We
right?
could assume that, yes.
Like if we're automating all the boring stuff and writing code at light speed, shouldn't we be crossing the finish line constantly?
Right.
But why does Ang point out that the rate of project cancellations remains just as high as ever? It feels like we are just speeding a million miles an hour right into a brick wall.
What's fascinating here is that Ang diagnoses the root cause of these failures, and the technology is entirely blameless.
It's not the AI's fault.
Not at all. The bottlenecks in software development haven't been technical for a long time. They are, as Ang notes with a bit of a throat clear, non-technical, human issues.
The call is coming from inside the house.
Exactly.
We are the bottleneck.
Always. Because AI solves the how. An LLM is essentially just a sophisticated prediction engine, right? So it knows statistically how to write the code to achieve a given function.
But it doesn't have an agenda.
Right. It possesses zero actual intent. It cannot solve the what. It has no idea what it is supposed to be building unless a human articulates it perfectly.
And humans are, frankly, notoriously terrible at articulating what they want.
We are incredibly bad at it. So if the human issues remain unresolved, misaligned business goals, poor management, a fundamental misunderstanding of what the end user actually needs, you aren't fixing the project.
You're just accelerating the failure.
You are simply using AI to build the wrong thing faster than ever before.
Which is a terrifying thought for any product manager listening right now.
Oh, absolutely terrifying.
Ang is warning us that the emergence of AI is pushing industries to optimize entirely for speed, completely ignoring sustainability or direction.
Right.
It really forces you to audit your own daily workflow. Like, ask yourself, are you actually being effective, or are you just efficiently executing the wrong tasks at lightning speed?
It boils down to the difference between velocity and vector.
Oh, I like that.
AI gives you unprecedented velocity. You can move incredibly fast. But if your human vector, your strategic direction, is pointed off a cliff, that velocity just ensures you crash that much harder.
The human's job is the vector.
Always.
But, this bottleneck of human intent isn't limited to writing code.
No, not at all.
That realization bridges us perfectly into Ang's second major application in these notes: daily creative writing.
Which is so interesting.
Ang basically treats coding and writing English as parallel disciplines, operating on the premise that syntax is just syntax.
Which is mathematically true when you look at how large language models actually function.
Right, it's all tokens.
Exactly. Whether the output is a Python script or a reflective journal entry, the AI is just predicting the next optimal token based on established rules of grammar and structure.
Now, Ang writes every day as a creative outlet, and a reflective record for a future self. And the impact of AI in this personal writing space mirrors the coding landscape perfectly.
It really does.
Ang reports using AI to completely handle the underlying mechanics of writing. The grammar, the style, the voice, the tone. The AI basically acts as a flawless, instantaneous proofreader.
Which completely eliminates the linguistic friction.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, think about it. Instead of spending 20 minutes agonizing over a clunky transition or hunting for the perfect adjective, Ang delegates that entire cognitive load to the machine.
And what happens to that saved energy?
All of that preserved energy is then redirected entirely into researching the topics, structuring the underlying thoughts, and building bulletproof arguments.
So what does this all mean? I have to play devil's advocate here for a second because this feels like a slippery slope to me.
Okay, let's hear it.
If you outsource your voice and your style to a machine, doesn't that fundamentally strip the creative out of the creative outlet?
That's a common fear.
Right. Aren't we just becoming architects who refuse to touch the bricks? If I tell an AI to write a reflection on my day and it chooses the words, is it even my writing anymore?
That is the exact philosophical trap we all instinctively fall into, because we conflate the physical act of typing with the act of thinking.
We think the typing is the verb.
Yes. But Ang's perspective completely recontextualizes what we should actually value in communication. For Ang, the core value isn't the prose itself, it is the structural integrity of the idea.
The architecture is the art, not the specific brand of bricks used to build it.
Beautifully put. Think about it this way. If you are trying to untangle a really complex philosophical thought, wrestling with a comma splice isn't helping you refine the thought.
No, it's just annoying.
It's just a mechanical distraction. By offloading the syntax, Ang is arguing that the heavy lifting of the human mind shouldn't be wasted on the assembly of the language.
Save the energy for the ideas.
The human value is in the logic, the empathy, and the unique connection of disparate ideas. The AI just dresses the mannequin.
Okay, that makes sense for a reflective journal or like a data specification. But Ang follows this up with a massive flashing warning light.
Yes, the atrophy trap.
Constantly offloading that mechanical friction comes with a dangerous side effect. If we never lift the bricks ourselves, we eventually lose the physical strength to do so.
This brings us to Ang's profound warning about the human cost of AI, which is the very real risk of skill atrophy.
Use it or lose it.
Exactly. If you consistently rely on an LLM to handle your syntax, to write your boilerplate code, to lay your pipes, you are slowly eroding your own ability to navigate those underlying mechanics without assistance.
There's a quote in Ang's notes that absolutely floored me. Ang says, "Struggling is the work and the learning, just like muscle soreness is the exercise."
It perfectly captures the biological reality of how humans acquire mastery.
We need the soreness.
We are neurologically wired to grow through resistance. Neuroplasticity requires struggle.
I keep thinking about this in terms of physical fitness. Like if you sign up to run a marathon, you don't hire someone to run it for you.
No, that would defeat the purpose.
And you don't strap a motor to your legs. The struggle of the miles is the entire point. But with cognitive tasks, we're basically putting our brains in a golf cart instead of walking the course.
That is such a good way to frame it.
Let's take it a step further than the golf cart. Think about GPS reliance.
Oh, yeah.
Before turn-by-turn navigation, you had to build a spatial map of your city in your hippocampus. You got lost, you took wrong turns, and that struggle built a mental model.
You learn the city.
Now, you just follow the glowing blue line on your phone. You arrive at your destination faster, sure. But if your phone dies, you have absolutely no idea where you are.
You're completely helpless.
AI is the glowing blue line for logic. If you just follow it blindly, your brain never builds the underlying map of how to solve a problem from scratch.
This raises an important question, and it really serves as the thematic peak of Ang's entire argument. It all comes down to intentionality.
Intentionality.
Ang warns against the illusion of productivity, trading hard work for busy work and falling into the trap of efficiency versus effectiveness.
Just doing the wrong things faster.
Right. And because of this risk of cognitive atrophy, Ang presents the listener with a stark choice regarding how we interact with these systems.
Two paths forward.
Two very distinct paths. The first path, if you actually care about learning a discipline, understanding how a system works, or mastering a craft, you must treat AI as a complementary tool.
A complementary tool, meaning you still do the work.
You keep your hands firmly on the keyboard, you endure the muscle soreness, you let the AI assist you, maybe point out a typo or suggest a library, but you do not let it replace your effort.
You walk the golf course yourself, but maybe the AI carries your clubs.
Yes, the struggle remains yours. But the second path acknowledges the reality of commercial demands.
Because sometimes you just need to get things done.
Exactly. If your sole objective is to ship a product quickly, if the end result is the only metric that matters, then Aang advises treating the AI like an outsourced contractor.
Okay, so the AI is the contractor.
You define the task, you pay for the computing tokens, the AI does the heavy lifting, and your only job is to verify that the end product meets the specification.
You hand over the blueprints, step back, and inspects the house once the contractor finishes framing it.
And we need to be really clear here. The danger isn't the technology itself.
The LLM is just a tool.
It's a neutral tool. The danger is a failure of intentionality.
Right.
The danger is adopting the contractor approach when you really should be using the complementary tool approach.
Ah.
If your underlying goal is personal growth, reflection, or mastering the architecture of a code base, and you outsource all the friction to the contractor, you are cheating yourself out of the exercise.
You're skipping the gem.
You are actively inviting that skill atrophy into your own brain.
It's a failure to recognize what game you're actually playing. Like, are you playing the game of self-improvement or the game of rapid deployment?
Exactly. And Aang wraps up the notes with a call for balance, stating, in short, finding the right balance is the key. We will have to adopt and adjust accordingly.
So it's not a one-time decision.
No, it requires a daily, almost hourly negotiation with yourself. Every single time you open a prompt window or spin up a new development environment, you have to consciously ask yourself, what is my role right now? Am I the craftsman today, prioritizing the process? Or am I the plumber, prioritizing the payload?
So, to synthesize all of this for you listening, the secret to surviving and thriving in this new landscape, whether you're trying to bootstrap a complex web app or you're just sitting down to write a reflective journal entry, is explicit intentionality.
Intentionality is everything.
Before you generate a single token, you have to define your goal. Are you here to learn the messy process, or are you here to ship a polished product?
You have to choose.
If it's the former, embrace the friction. Let the syntax frustrate you. Use the AI as a rubber duck to bounce ideas off of, but write the code yourself.
Get the muscle soreness.
But if it's the latter, be the plumber. Let the AI lay the pipes. But remember that speed without a human vector is just a faster way to fail.
You still have to guide it.
Focus all your cognitive energy on the specification, the strategy, and the empathy required to ensure the system is actually building something the world needs.
Because the machine can build the table perfectly, but only you can decide who gets to sit at it and what meal is being served.
That's a great point.
The human element is no longer in the construction. It is entirely in the intention.
Which leaves us with one final lingering idea to chew on as you go about your day. Something that builds on Aang's analogy about muscle soreness and the necessity of struggle.
Okay.
If artificial intelligence permanently removes the friction from the mechanics of our daily tasks, if we never again have to agonize over coding syntax or grammatical structure or manually organizing spreadsheets,
Right.
what entirely new cognitive muscles will humanity need to start exercising so our minds don't waste away following that blue GPS line?
Wow.
Like when the mechanical struggle of how to build something is gone forever, what exactly does the mental muscle soreness of the future look like?
That is the new frontier we are all walking toward. And figuring out how to exercise that new muscle is going to define the next decade of human work.
It really is. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep questioning your processes, keep challenging your tools, and whatever you do, don't be afraid to occasionally ignore the polished dining table and go get a little sawdust on your hands. We'll catch you next time.